Hey everybody, Chris here. Patterns point to a Dogecoin recovery. We're going to talk about that in this video. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel. Hit that little notification bell too. You can be notified when my new videos come out, as well as when I do live streams. We were live Monday afternoon, following up from a volatile day of trading on Monday, which I had predicted. Did a successful swing trade in the morning, bought into more Doge, as well as other stocks that I talked about yesterday. Showing more recovery today from what I think was this total overreaction to the tariff situation. More about that in a bit. But right now, we are looking at good recovery. Will the recovery continue? How high are we going to go? Crypto, Bitcoin, Dogecoin. Let's get into it. Let me show you the charts on the news. I'll show you what I'm looking at. We start here looking at the current Dogecoin chart, and we are seeing recovery already up to 15.6 this morning. And this is a level we have not seen since the weekend, as Doge was collapsing down to 13.1. In the live stream yesterday, someone came up with this ABCD pattern, picking that D way down here at about 12.5, and I was like, yeah, I don't think we're going to get down there. I think we've seen the bottom here. I said the bottom is in at 13.1, and that all of the tariff thing was an overreaction. Again, this was all about fear of what might happen, not actually what is happening. And that is how markets many times overreact, and that recovery happens from here. And we'll look at the patterns that sort of show that. Right now, we're looking back at the daily chart of Dogecoin. We are under the 50-day moving average, and we go to the weekly, and on the weekly we're just looking at how this is going to fare coming back to the 50-week moving average, while Bitcoin consistently, since the bull run started back in 2023, Bitcoin has touched this 50-week moving average, and that 50-week moving average just briefly, with the overreaction, came down below and into this purple box that we had identified months ago on the Bitcoin chart, of which this is where the danger zone is. Not only did we revisit the peak that we hit here back in 2024, just over a year ago. Of course, this was the big Bitcoin surge based on the new spot ETFs before the Bitcoin halving, but the bottom of that box is the peak of Bitcoin back in November 2021, which people were asking, Chris, when do you think we're in a bear market? And I said, if we breach 69K, in other words, if Bitcoin goes down below the purple box, then I will admit we're in a bear market. And I don't think we're in a bear market still. Yes, Doge and many other alts have fallen a lot harder than Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is still the big daddy, and Bitcoin is still the one that determines whether we're in a bear market overall or not. So I'm still with that. We have pre-market. I'm recording this before the stock market opens. S&P futures up 2.5%, Dow futures 2.8%, NASDAQ 2.3%, and the Russell 2000 up 3% pre-market. Even gold is up 2% pre-market. This is showing Monday was an overreaction. Monday morning, the big drop, and it's gonna correct. The markets are gonna correct. XRP, Dogecoin surge 10%. Crypto markets are going to stage a relief rally, and we're going to see that in stocks as well. Total crypto market cap pulled back to levels seen in early November when Donald Trump's victory triggered a breakthrough at a resistance level. Are we going to see this huge breakthrough? I don't think it's going to be a huge thing like November yet. That is going to come. It's going to be slow and steady, I believe, going forward. Fake outs, right? The Scalping Pro says, look, fake outs. Again, every time we see capitulation, we see a big drop in the price of Bitcoin. As we are in a bull market, we see fake out after fake out after fake out, and this is another fake out that has happened for Bitcoin. And it keeps recovering and going higher. We can look back from 2021, and we can draw a line between what we saw in February at 64, what we saw November at 69, what we just looked at here in 2024 at 73, and we draw that line. Guess what we just did? We just retested that line as support, which could mean the next move is higher. Plan B is saying, look, based on the Plan B model, it's still a red dot. Even with Bitcoin dropping below 80K, still a red dot in the Bitcoin market cycles, which according to Plan B, still bull market. We are not into the distribution phase, which means not there yet. Now in 2021, we did have this double, which we did have a brief distribution phase in the summer of 2021. Again, that was that big drop that we had in mid-May based on Tesla and China, and Doge was dropping and all of that. Came back and printed a couple more red dots. Here, we're consistently in the red. We have not had an accumulation piece yet, according to the Plan B model. Crypto Rover says, look at 2017, 2016, 2017, we had these dots 225 days apart where we had drops. Same thing happened here. Summer 2024 and now spring 2025, 225 days. Also a similar drop. Will this now go higher as we saw in 2017? I'm guessing there's going to be more of a break here. I'll tell you why in just a minute. This is going to last a little longer, I think, before we see this big rise. Again, that's based on the chart patterns that I'm looking at. Gel also believes me, same thing. What we're having is cycle tops are extending longer and longer after each Bitcoin halving. 357 days, 518 days, 546 days. Right now, we're just 273 days after the halving. So if this extends even longer, as we have after each halving event, that means we have a long ways to go. We have a long ways to go in this cycle. And of course, Ali says, hey, look, right? TD sequential indicator is saying buy Bitcoin on the weekly. TD sequential indicator has printed a buy signal after that big tail down, right? The wick down, back up, buy. Thank you, Ali. Dan Crypto says, CME gaps. I have not been a believer in the CME futures gaps, but time and time again, those futures gaps tend to get filled. Guess what we have now? We have a big gap to the upside, as all these other previous ones were filled, including down low, that CME gap that I was like 77K, never going to make it, never going to fill it, right? Guess what? It did. Came all the way down and filled that gap. Well, now we have one to the upside that goes all the way up to 84.4. Up to 84.4 to fill that gap. So I'm a believer in filling these gaps now. We're going to fill it. Again, just another signal. And here we have another one for Doge. The Wyckoff accumulation patterns, they do tend to appear again and again and again. And here we are. This is the spring point now. We've had that capitulation down to 13.1. Definitely a spring point. And we will see whether Doge recovers up into that pattern, which we think later this month we'll see the 17s for Doge kind of bounce around in that range before going higher toward the end of the month. If we see that pattern play out, that will match my April price prediction. So we're going to see whether that does indeed play out with the Doge Wyckoff accumulation. And then we've got what is happening with these points. Master Kenobi saying, look, this kind of point where we see that big drop that huge last drop before going higher, that could be the signal. Again, this is what we were talking about on the live stream on Monday night, whether the bottom was in there, and it looks like after we see these repeated tails, right, these wicks down, that could be that last one, that fourth one we've had in this downtrend, time to move up. So that's what this is pointing to. When we look at the RSI actually is higher. Interesting, right? A lower low on the price, but a higher low on the RSI. That is bullish divergence on this one, which points to going higher. House of Doge. The House of Doge is meeting with Tim Stebbing, the Dogecoin Foundation, this week. He's flown up from Australia, meeting in California. House of Doge has talked about some big news coming out this week, midweek. That's coming soon. We're waiting to see what they say. Look at that. They've got the corporate symbol now here on their X account. So they are official corporate symbol now. Moving forward with House of Doge, big things coming. And Dogecoin price rebounds 15% amid volatile trading, aiming for further recovery. This is what we're watching for Dogecoin as we continue to see this recovery happening with Doge. You can talk about all these different patterns, right? The triple zigzag correction, RSI divergence, price nearing long-term descending resistance. I think we've already hit that. So all of those are in play with Doge recovering and moving higher. That's all in play. And then I'll leave you with this. One other chart. Fartcoin. Fartcoin is the savior of the bearish trend, as Fartcoin has actually held pretty well and moved up instead of everything else going down with Fartcoin. So the smelly one holding up, or at least representing memes in a great way with Fartcoin. Who's buying all of this? Unbelievable that this is the coin, this is the token that is holding up very well. But we'll talk about that some more in our next live stream on Tuesday afternoon. Come join us there. We do tend to have a little bit of fun during the live streams. I know many portfolios are still down. I get it. But you got to live too. Got to have a little fun. So we'll catch up with how things are going with Doge. We just had a little run this morning, retracing a little bit as we're zoomed in here. Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think? Is this all recovery? Are all these patterns falling in line to show further recovery in April? Let me know. Give the video a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate the support. See you next time.